You're knowing what you're wanting. It expands, doesn't it? You like that? So since your desire constantly expands because of what you are living, that means there must always be a new idea that has not yet come to fruition. Is that right? And is that all right with you? Well, you should write that down. So many of our physical friends are in a position where their life has clarified for them that they want something beyond where they are. It may be an improvement in their physical condition. It may be an improved relationship or a missing relationship filled with a present relationship. It may be that they want material things that are more to their advantage, more money, nicer living conditions. It may be that they are wanting a greater sense of fulfillment, a clear idea of who they are and why they are here. But in every case, as your physical life causes you to clarify that you want something beyond where you are, there is always this gap between your realization that you are reaching for something and the actual receiving or obtaining of it. There is always that gap, and we want to call it the eternal gap of life. We want to call it the eternal gap of becoming. We want to call it the natural consequence where a genius, source energy creator, that's you, came forth from non-physical into a physical body with the precise intention of letting the contrast that surrounds you be the basis from which you would come to constant new conclusions of what would make life better for you. And you understood that when all of that happened, that not only would Source agree with you, but the larger part of you, which is still non-physical, even though you are in this physical body, would go immediately and directly to the full essence of what it is you are asking for. Something that is even more interesting to us that most humans miss altogether is that you carve your life out incrementally. In other words, none of you sits down at the breakfast table one morning and writes out your life plan. Instead, it is written by you incrementally. When you're rude, you write a plan that says, I want to be more who I really am when I'm interacting with others. When you're confused, you write a vibrational plan, so to speak, that says, I want more clarity. When you don't have enough money, you write a plan that says, I would like enough money to do what I'm wanting to do right now. When you are sick, your plan says, I want wellness. When you are unsteady, you want to be more steady. When you see your world not in the condition you want it to be, your plan says, I would like the world to improve in this way or this way. In other words, all day, every day, as you sift through the details of your life experience, you are at conscious but mostly unconscious levels, sending rockets of desire forward, which is what you knew you would do when you came forth. In fact, you knew that the evolution of your species, that the evolution of your time-space reality would happen because of you and those like you who are standing in this leading edge environment still asking for more. And from your non-physical perspective, you understand that the reason it works so beautifully is because this is a universe that is based upon attraction. So you knew you had to get here and have experiences that would make you ask for or call for the improvement. It's an eternal cycle of life. So the way it works is, from non-physical, you saw yourself here. As you came into this physical body, you see more still. And as you see more, as you see that which you would like to have, Source says, you should know, leading edge creator, and so be it. So much so, in fact, we've written a book and given it the best title that we think could ever be given to a book because it speaks to all of this. And the title of the book is Ask and It Is Given. Now, an improved title, we wanted this one, but they all said it was way too long. An improved title would be So I'm non-physical energy. I project myself into a physical body, and then I weigh the consequences of physical life experience. And from that contrast, I give birth to endless new desires, which source then becomes immediately at one with. Too long? But that really is what happens. In other words, we want you to know that not only when you ask is it given, we want you to understand that when you ask, the larger non-physical part of you literally becomes the vibrational equivalent of what you're asking for. So if you don't have enough money, and you ask for more money all day, every day, as you are sifting through the details of your life experience, you have amassed an incredible vibrational escrow of abundance. But most physical friends do not feel ownership of something until it is manifested into the physical stuff that they can translate with their physical senses. And we want you to understand that everything you see here, your planet itself, how it spins in its orbit with other planets, everything that you know as physical or material was thought first. It was thought, and then it became form. And in like manner, everything that you create, without exception, must be thought first, and then it is form. And so that's where we come in. You, in your form, live it and want it, and as you give thought to it, it is only thought, and then we give our thought to it, and now it is really thought, and now we stand in the thought of that which you are asking for, and we give our undivided attention to it, calling you forth to it. And when the whole of you catches up with the rest of you, that which was your thought becomes form, and you receive manifestation. How about that? So that's why we call this gathering the art of allowing. That's what that allowing part is. I find some way in my physical body to allow myself to become vibrationally up to speed with what I have formerly only thought about. And so the art of allowing asks the question, is the vibration that's activated within you right now by virtue of whatever you're giving your attention to, is it a match to what's in your vibrational escrow or not? If it's a match, there's alignment and manifestation is happening. If there's not a match, there's not alignment and manifestation can't happen. And that's why so many people that you know, maybe even you, have been asking for things for a long, long time, and they haven't come, which gives you the misimpression that it takes a long time to create big things. We say, it doesn't take any more time to create a castle than a button. It takes no more time to create big things than little things. But both require the same thing, a desire for it and an expectation of it, a belief. When your desire and belief are in the same place, it is done. But when you want something that you doubt, when you want something that you don't believe, when you say, oh, Abraham, I'd like to believe you, but I've struggled my whole life. And we say, well, stop it. And you say, I can't stop it. I've learned it from those who have come before me. It's just what we do here. Imagine taking your canoe down to the river's edge, a very nice, fast-moving stream, and your oars or paddles are already attached to your boat. And you put it in the water, and you deliberately turn it upstream and begin paddling very hard against this fast-moving current. And we say, why not just turn and go with the flow? And our human friends invariably say, doesn't that seem lazy? That seems lazy. And then they will say, my mother would not approve of that, or my teachers. They all had me pointing the other way. In fact, every plaque on my wall was based upon paddling upstream. And I was measured against the others who did it too. And the better we did it, the better we were able to fight that current, then the more proud our human friends were of us, and the bigger the trophies and monuments. And we hear that when you die, there are even more. And we want you to know something. In fact, it's worth writing this down. Nothing that you want is upstream. Nothing that you want is upstream. And the reason we know that is because we've seen the cycle of life. We know that source extended itself here into that which is you. And we know that you are asking, as a result of your leading edge experience, just like you knew you would, for more. And we know that source is becoming that more that you are asking for and is calling you to it. And so we know the source of the stream. And we know that when you turn and go with the stream, you feel ever so good. That's what positive emotion is. Varying degrees of it, but it's what positive emotion is. And we also know that when you buck that current, it can beat up on you pretty good. And that's what negative emotion is. We want you to understand that there is only one stream that you might be going with or against, but there is only one stream. And when you learn from those around you to go against the stream, then you want to pronounce that there are evil streams, that there are streams of sickness or streams of badness or streams of poverty. We say, no, just one stream. You're just not going with it. You say, oh, that can't be. If it's a stream of goodness, why is it beating me up so? And we say, because you're clinging to the bottom. It's beating you up because you're not going with your self-created stream. Do you get this? Jerry and Esther had the wonderful experience of going whitewater rafting in Colorado. And as they were riding up the canyon, they looked out the window at this stream and they were amazed at the speed of this stream. The stream was not a meandering stream. It was a raging river. And as Jerry and Esther looked at them, they said to each other, we must be out of our minds. How would anyone survive that, for example, or that? And then they remembered the disclaimer that the river company had made them sign, which made it sound improbable that they would survive anyway. And in their boat were their 6 friends and 2 river guides. And as they put that boat in the water, it became very obvious to all of them that they were going to have no success at all in paddling upstream. This river was going to take them downstream. And that really is the strongest point that we want to make with you. This stream of well-being is a powerful stream, and it takes you downstream whether you go easily or not. In other words, when you look around at your environment, you've just got to acknowledge that well-being abounds. Your planet continues to spin in its orbit. And even beyond the well-being that is obvious, more obvious to some of you than others, granted, but even beyond the well-being that is obvious, we want to remind you that even when you get further downstream and you have that which you call your physical death, which there isn't any of, we like to be disrespectful of death since there isn't any and call it croaking. When you croak, you really move rapidly with this stream of well-being. In other words, the stream of well-being is not only dominant, it's all that there is. So while you can be in this physical body and you can fume and fuss and give yourself a lot of grief and point in opposition of the stream to the point that you beat yourself up pretty good and then claim that there cannot possibly be a stream of well-being because your life is going so badly, we want to say to you, if you would let go of your resistance and start going with the flow, you will discover how good this stream can be to you. So we want you to get a sense from this analogy that we're offering, a very appropriate analogy, that if you will just make a decision that however you can make it happen, you're going to turn and go with the flow. Sometimes we think, especially those of you who've been listening to us for a while, as we crow about the good feeling emotions being on this end of the emotional scale, love and joy and all of that wonderful energy, and on the other end of the scale are things that feel like depression and fear and anger. And we know that we give you the impression that your work is to not only not be on this end of the scale, but get to this end of the scale as quickly as possible. And of course, we'd rather that you felt this way than this way. But what we really want you to understand is that since the stream is moving, we really are not asking you to turn your boat downstream and put a motor on it and get all the way down here as quickly as you can. Because we know the power of the stream. You don't have to do that. You don't even have to turn your boat in the stream. Just stop paddling upstream. Just stop paddling against the current. The current will turn you. And this is the thing we most want you to hear. As the current turns you, that's your point of relief. And when you think about it, that is your only choice. Upstream or not. Upstream or not. Of course, it's nice when you're choosing downstream and you're so good at it that you can really choose it. But your choice in any moment is really to feel worse or better. Worse or better. And when you make that decision all day, every day, I could beat the drum of this situation and make it worse, or I could just stop talking about it and make it better. Esther's really been hearing us about this, and as she's driving the monster bus, often Jerry's in the back doing something, and she will call out, "Can you hear me?" And he'll say, "Yes. What do you need?" as he starts making his way forward so that they can have a conversation. And by the time he gets all the way up there, Esther is determined, oh wait, that was an upstream comment. So he gets all the way to the front of the bus and she'll say, never mind. It was sort of upstream. And Jerry is wise enough that he doesn't say, oh, come on, tell me. He doesn't want to know the upstream comment. He's very happy to go back to the back of the bus where he was living happily ever after. In other words, he does not want to go to some place, and Esther is wise enough that she doesn't want to verbalize it. And what she's discovering is, if she doesn't verbalize it, it's not as strong. If she doesn't talk about it, join the online group about it, call everybody she knows about it. In other words, if you stop talking about the things that make you feel worse, you'll stop going upstream. The current will take you, because the current is moving. It is moving rapidly, and it will carry you, you see.